Hello everybody and welcome to another forecast. So I put this video off a little bit longer just because there is a severe weather risk to be had with this system that will be coming through in the south. So basically Louisiana, Missouri, and Alabama. So I gave this video a little bit more time just because the SPC has issued some outlooks for this, which are based on day 1 and day 2. So this is today's risk and this is down here if you can see them. This is today's risk. This is tomorrow's risk. And this will give us better information, right? So the SPC issues tornado risk for today and tornado risk for tomorrow in these areas. I waited to put this video out a little bit longer just because this is closer to the event, so it's more accurate data. Especially when it comes to severe weather, that is very important. So why is this happening? So very recently, we had a low pressure system that formed right here in the Rockies and is now moving its way across to the east, like so. And this is going to bring some snow, but most likely severe weather for the south. The snow that comes with this isn't going to be very severe, so I won't talk about it too much. I'll look at it real quick. We see some total snow accumulation and see it forming a little bit in Kansas today. And actually right now as we speak, this is probably dropping some snow there. Otherwise, nothing too major, and this won't even be that quick of snow. What's more important, though, is what happens as this moves over southeast. So, as this low pressure system moves over this region, and I'm actually going to get a little bit closer just to more directly pinpoint where the low pressure system is, which will be right about here. So we can see these wind bars moving this direction, these ones this direction, these ones to this direction, which would be kind of full flow in this direction, counterclockwise. That's how I know there's a low pressure system here. But essentially, this is going to be pulling up warm temperatures from the Gulf and higher dew points, which is going to mean cloud cover and storms forming somewhere around here. Right now, this is current satellite data. So if I move down to right around here, there's this group of storms that's currently moving this direction, something like this. So as this low pressure system, which is somewhere up here in this vicinity, as that pulls up warm temperatures from the Gulf, these storms will start forming probably somewhere around here, moving this direction, which could have a little bit of a robust severe risk, notably supercells, which I'm going to do a little crash course here real quickly on. So if I take a sounding right here, I can kind of show you what a supercell is. Now, this is probably a lot of data for anyone to look at, and that's why I'm here. I'm going to figure out what this means. So what this is up here is basically showing the wind directions with height, right? So you can imagine drawing an arrow like so to each one of these little dots. So as wind goes up with height, you go here, you can see how it's turning, right? So if you imagine a piece of air at the surface, it's going to move like this in the atmosphere. And this becomes a supercell. So this is what this will end up actually kind of looking like on radar. Now this is a very, very strong supercell, but it's this general idea. These kind of bean shapes get formed. They'll look something like this, in a tornado, which actually was happening in this supercell, would be right here. Which I'll make that a different color so you can see that a little better. So right here is where you'd see a tornado. And people who have, been around long enough would know that's like your hook shape you'll see, and that's where your tornadoes, or really majority of your severe weather, will actually happen at. As I was editing this video, I realized that information is actually a little bit off. So with a supercell, the majority of your severe weather happens in the supercell, not right here. So this is where our tornado will happen, where this dot is. But we'll actually see severe hail happen, usually in something called a hail core. That'll happen right here. And winds often can happen basically anywhere in the supercell. It can be on the edge here usually, with like stronger pushing of rain and stuff this direction. But severe winds don't usually happen with supercells. Mostly tornadoes here and hail somewhere around here. And with a strong enough supercell, sometimes this hail can even be in this huge, huge area. Winds happen when a bunch of supercells happen in a line, and that can bring a few instances of severe winds. So not everything happens in the hook, but your most dangerous severe weather, which is going to be your tornado, that is where that happens. Essentially what this means is that supercells are possible and things can happen just depending on how much instability happens in the atmosphere, which is basically how much air will rise and create storms. Again, though, this isn't looking to be too severe, mostly because there's a very select area where this might occur. This has been highlighted by the SPC, but it's really just this narrow corridor by the sea. And so there is the risk, but it won't be absolutely insane. We can also look at dew point temperature. So this shows the dew points as, as this low pressure system moves through and how much moisture is in the air. You can see this very select area of darker colors. So the blues are going to be higher dew points, which means, again, more moisture in this little region. That's where our severe weather can happen, including moving on to the other days, but this model doesn't go far enough into it. Right now I'm using the rapid refresh model, so I'm going to look at the NAM real quick as well, so we can get a little closer as well. The NAM is often more severe oriented, but this general idea continues as dew points are higher in this region. You can see this also highlighted from the SPC. So Florida is the main risk point for this system tomorrow. You can see these higher, deeper colors, which indicates more chances of storms. Now, something I touched on in my last forecast was this thing called El Niño, which basically, in a nutshell, at the Pacific Ocean near the equator, water temperatures get warmer, which creates this low pressure system, which is very strong out on the coast of Alaska. And this is very important to how our jet streams work. But essentially, we're going to have a wetter region in the south and a polar jet stream that brings down basically Alberta Clipper systems from Canada with Arctic air. That will lead to a lot of high winds in the northeast and the Midwest, as well as possible snowstorms as long as that picks up moisture. It also means we'll see lots of low pressure systems that will form right around here and move this direction with the Pacific jet stream. And that is something we're going to keep seeing over time, especially as we're seeing it right now. This here is the European model. So essentially you can kind of see what's happening where these low pressure systems will form in California and Arizona and move their way east. And if I go to the GFS model, we can see it even further in time where it just keeps happening right here. These little circles that form right here and move this way. Those are all those low pressure systems that keep forming and just moving to the east. And as time gets on, obviously this is not very accurate, but you can see that pattern where they keep happening right here and moving east, which would keep bringing snow and all that. So now that we're not looking at the very near risk, we're going to look a little bit further. So on that last forecast, I talked about this system that might move through the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and that is still a risk. I'm looking at January 8th right about now, so this would be about the morning of January 8th. And I would say there's a low pressure system right here. You can see the way all these winds are moving like this direction through this little curve that's counterclockwise. But this will keep moving this direction. So you can move this forward, and that's where the low pressure system was. And you can see it tightens up. So you can see all these contour lines here. They get closer and closer to one spot. That means it's strengthening as it moves on east. I'm also going to switch the run just to give a little bit more information. You can see how this moves across the southeast as well. However, this could also be bringing a severe weather risk. Unfortunately, there's not really a good model for soundings. Soundings essentially tell me what's going on in the atmosphere, and it's that same thing I showed you guys that I drew the supercells on to kind of explain what they look like and how they work. Best we have is the GFS model, so I'm going to bring this to that day. So January 10th and the 9th. On the 9th, we have this system right around Texas and Louisiana. I can take a sounding and I can see what this looks like. And this helps me know what I'm going to see in the skies. Now, personally, I wouldn't see this as a huge risk, but you never really know. And it's a lot better if I look at a surface map and if I get a little bit closer to the sector. So I'm going to go to the southeast sector again. Just like is going on basically right now, there's a low pressure system, but this is a lot more north. I would center this somewhere around here. You can see, let's see, things going this direction, things going this direction, things going this direction. So I would put this right here. This is where our low pressure system is. Now, the way these work is that they have a warm front and a cold front most of the time. And in this area right here, this is called the open warm sector. And as this moves this direction, the whole system will move this direction. This is our ideal place for supercells, and that's where they'll form. a lot of the times ahead of the cold front as they move on in this direction. So if you imagine this is our little supercell, it'll move this direction, depending on mean wind, which, again, I'm not too concerned with that right now, considering I'm a few days ahead. But I can look at the NAM data for this, which is very nice because this does have good sounding data, so I can get just close enough to really understand what's happening here. The NAM also has this a little bit more south than the GFS model, which is interesting to see as well. So here's our sounding, and what the NAM is telling us is that, also kind of hard to see because it goes off the hodograph, this is showing rotation as you go up in the atmosphere. So if we imagine these arrows, let's get the right color here. This is our wind. And as it goes up, it's getting stronger and rotating. So that would be something like this. And, you can see that it's something like this. It's rotating around. Essentially, that is what forms our, what's called mesocyclones in supercells, and that's what gives us our severe storms. The fact that the NAM is already highlighting this 4 days out from this event means that this is most likely kind of dangerous. So nothing like the one we're seeing right now. Our current system, it's just some possible storms out in the ocean that will eventually make landfall this direction, right here in New Orleans, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. But they won't be too severe. The NAM is highlighting this could be quite a severe weather event, especially with how potent this trough is. Very tight gradient, and it has very high winds aloft, which could help get rid of a lot of precipitation and help move those storms in a very dangerous fashion. Again, we are a little bit far out from this event, but it's only 4 days, and that is more recent than most other models are. However, this isn't also just going to bring severe weather, it'll also be quite a bit of snow. So with how strong of a trough this is, it's going to be pulling up a lot of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. Right now, I'm going to the dew point map on the GFS model. And as this sucks moisture up, it's going to bring it even north, up here in Illinois, Iowa, Missouri. The way that low pressure systems work regarding snow is that you usually have I'm going to use blue for snow and yellow for rain. So as this rotates, we're going to have a section around here, somewhere like that, on the northeast side. That's more for snow. And the rest of it, this is all kind of rain. This is a kind of rough sketch, but this is all rain, this is snow, and somewhere in here you might get sleet and kind of a mix of both. So as this system moves this direction, goes up like this, you'll see snow more in this region and rain and storms more on this side. That's just kind of how that works. And it'll keep moving up to New England, and as it reaches New England and colder temperatures, that's just going to be snow all over the place. I can also see this on total snow accumulation. So this is the day where the system begins. You can see it does bring some snow. This is a 14.7 inches in Missouri, 8.6 here. That's what the GFS model says. The European model as well has something similar, but a little less extreme. So this is about 10 or 11 inches, 7 here. Maybe 11 in Michigan, 5 in Indiana. And as it gets to New England, a little heavier as it's colder there. Most of the snow won't even stick that much. Right now, I'm looking at the GFS model and total snow depth. And as most of this is going to get warmed up by the sun, there isn't going to be too much of a snow accumulation. Unfortunately, I'm looking a little bit further ahead, so GFS may be slightly incorrect, but you can see in Illinois, might have 4 inches on the ground tops. That's in a very select corridor with colder temperatures. And a lot of that depends on really just how warm it gets. So in all, what are we going to see from this system? Most likely a few inches of snow, maybe upwards of 8, 9 across Missouri and Illinois, which is definitely something to look out for, and it could be pretty dangerous. Missouri and Kansas are most likely going to start seeing this on the night of January 8th, and into the morning of January 9th, we'll see this moving into Illinois with heavier amounts as well. I can also see 6-hour snow accumulation, which is how hard it will be coming down at certain points. Our snows will definitely be in Missouri with upwards of 8 inches in 6 hours. That's quite a bit. And as it moves into Illinois, nearly Chicagoland as well, you can see upwards of 4 inches in that region. It also depends on where this decides to go. This could go more north, it could go more south. We don't know for sure, especially because of how far out this is. Snow can be very difficult to pinpoint based on the snow rain line. So I'm currently looking at a map of northern Illinois and surrounding areas. You can see here, this is only a span of a few miles. So on one end, we have 3.7 inches of snow that could fall in an area. On the other end, nothing. So at this point, I cannot tell you who here is going to get how much snow. This region is most likely to get snow. Over here can get snow, and over here can get snow, even though both of them say 0 inches. These miles are not always correct, because our environment is very randomized. So I cannot tell you exactly how much snow you'll get this far out. Most likely on the day of this event, I am going to issue out a forecast, which will tell us a much more accurate idea of snow. But even then, depends on how storms form, really tell you how many inches you're going to get. So in all, this system moving through the United States is going to bring all sorts of risks. To the north, most likely some snow. For northeast, especially heavier snow. And in the south, probably some severe weather, especially as it moves over in Florida and all these states down here. And that is definitely something to look out for, especially as we get closer to the actual time risk. I'm going to be looking more into severe weather, because severe weather is something I know a little better. I'm still learning snow to an extent, but severe weather is something I do thrive for more. If you guys would like to see more information on supercells, which are, the beans that basically form your tornadoes, I am fully willing to put out a video about that, which has more details and all that. And if you have any other questions, let me know. But otherwise, that's it for this forecast, and thank you for watching. See you guys next time.